Hello, everybody. So I can reach the highest, yeah. Man, you people are fast. Welcome, welcome. I said I might continue this on Monday. Here it is Thursday. Now we're gonna do it. And I think I'll just play through Sonic's story from the beginning. Too quiet? Like the mic's too quiet? Alright, hang on. Dustin VG is pointing out, Common CJ, oh my god, has already super chatted and says, Uchukita. By the way, I'm by myself tonight, so I think what I'm gonna do is, like, I'll sort of, like, do a super chat wrap-up every couple of minutes or so. We'll just see how it goes. Okay, let me see. I can turn the mic up quite a bit. Alich is not here. I don't have to talk about JoJo this time. Gerald Sunken asks, what you drinking? That would be an Arnold Palmer half and half iced tea lemonade. Alright, apparently the whole stream is quiet. Give me a second, I'll get it sorted. Let's see. I don't know. All I can really figure to do is just turn up the game and the microphone. Is it any better now? Dustin VG was talking about being, like, bringing somebody on as a guest and saying by myself here. I'm not at all opposed to doing that. It'd just be kind of difficult right now. It's been such a long time since I've streamed that, like, I don't actually have anything like that's, like, set up. So it'd be a bit of a mess trying to, like, configure so that, like, you could hear me and so that you could hear what's coming through the desktop. It's just a bit of a complicated setup. This is not the Dreamcast version. This is the PC version modded with the Dreamcast version's lighting engine and textures. And it's called the Dreamcast Conversion Mod, and I highly, highly recommend it. Because in most ways, I think the Dreamcast graphics are a lot more sort of thematically cohesive. And I regret that, I mean, I can't really, like, be down on myself about it too much because it wasn't, this mod wasn't out or wasn't at all in the shape it is now back when I did the episode on Sonic Adventure, but I wish it had been. I wish I could have, use this mod for that episode. People are saying it's still really quiet. Voice is better? Okay. Let me just try, like, knocking up the gain some more, I guess. It's weird that this is happening. By the way, Common CJ, real talk, check your Discord. I don't think you've been on Discord lately, but make sure you check it out. He, once again, super chats $5 and says, been thinking of doing a Sonic Kamen Rider fan game. Any opinions? I mean, I think that's, I don't know how much of a crossover those two properties have, but, I mean, I'd play it. JDude93 super chats, thank you very much, and says, what's your favorite video from Defunctland? I mean, the first thing that comes to mind I've been loving is Jim Henson series he's been doing lately. But, I also really loved all the stuff he did with the, like the different like obscure rides and sort of the history of Disney. Really learned a lot there. Me and Alicia binged every single one of those videos a while back. Let's see. Who thinks Vanilla DX is better than DC? The only thing I can see... There's a blog, I can't remember what it's called, but I'm sure if you search for it, you'll find it real easily. Maybe somebody can link that in the chat. There's a blog that sort of catalogs the differences that they made to the DX version of Sonic Adventure, and sort of talks about why most of those things were downgrades. Main thing that I liked about the DX version, especially on PC, was of course the increased frame rate. And I think there's an argument to be made for the character models in the DX version being better, but other than that, no, I'd vastly prefer the Dreamcast graphics. No Soon YouTuber super chats, thank you very much, and says this chat was free, so what's up? Alright, I've got to get to playing here. I'm by myself tonight, so it's going to be a little bit more... It's going to be difficult to keep up with the chat and play the game at the same time, but I will do my best. If I miss anything, I apologize. But I do kind of have to get going here. I actually started a little bit later than I was really wanting to. As is, you know, that always happens. Anytime... There's a reason that I try not to commit to doing anything at any particular time, because everything that I try to do is going to take me about 4 times longer than I think it will. At least. Bare minimum. But I know that here in about an hour, Mario Maker 2 is going to release. So I imagine people are probably pretty excited about that. So I kind of felt the need to sort of contrast that with a bunch of 3D Sonic games before that hits. So I'll mostly be like actively looking at the chat, I guess, during cutscenes and like between levels. But I will do my best to keep up with it. I guess that's an argument for, like, setting up, like... I saw somebody mention virtual audio cables, and yeah, that was actually what I did, like, at the very, very beginning when I first started streaming. I guess that's a good argument in favor of, like, trying to get somebody else on here. But, like I said, doing that right now, it would probably take at least, like, 20 or 30 minutes of troubleshooting, and since I'm running late anyway, I feel like I don't have the time. You can't just sit there and waste your precious time, you know? Dustin admits he will ditch me for Mario Maker 2. I don't blame you. I will probably ditch the stream when Mario Maker 2 comes out. Or I might just stream... This might just become a Mario Maker 2 stream. Alright, thank you very much to Max Mariner, who has sent a super chat and says, how would you design a Sonic Maker game? Sonic Maker would be, like, the tough thing about that is, like, the prospect of Sonic Maker is tough because Mario Maker kind of works because Mario is, like, a much more simple game in terms of physics. I think there's a lot more that can go wrong in, like, a 2D Sonic level. 2D Sonic level, like, not to say that making a 2D Mario level is hard, or rather is easy, but, like, I think the degree of difficulty and, like, when you play a bad Sonic level, like, in a fan game or something, you can really feel it, and it really, like, it's just frustrating. It's not particularly fun. A bad Mario level, like, won't be frustrating in that same level, or well, at least it won't necessarily be. It'll almost be more on purpose. Somebody says, what's your preferred way of playing Sonic Adventure 1? This is. Definitely the PC version with the Dreamcast conversion mod. Let's see. I saw somebody say a while ago that they definitely vastly prefer the Supersonic model in the Dreamcast version, and yeah, for sure. Somebody's saying the voices echo. Yeah, that's because I turned the gain on the mic up so much. Let's see, I need to go over here. Let me try this. Let me accidentally skip the cutscene while moving my mic around. Okay, I'm gonna try bringing the mic closer to me. Close as I can get it. I saw somebody ask if you could change anything about Sonic Adventure, what would it be? I guess basically, I mean, this is like... this would be a pretty major change, but what I said in my video about it, which was... I think the game could have been a lot stronger if all the development time that went into Gamma and Big and Amy was put towards Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles instead. But, you know, it was, having platformers with loads and loads of characters was just sort of what the people demanded at the time. Oh, thank you very much to Jarl Sunken, who super chats a hedgehog and a bunch of fire. Thank you very much. Somebody mentions I could use headphones. See, the problem with using headphones is that when we were doing this before, it was me and Alicia. So, like, we both kind of needed to be able to hear each other and the game itself. The stream just got started, Blue Rebellion. See people sort of talking about Sonic Adventure's quality and how well it's aging. Yeah, I don't think this game even remotely holds up. And I, you know, it's a little tougher for me to say. It's a bit tougher for me to say that about Mario 64 than it is this game, oddly enough. Because, like, Mario 64 was that first, like, I believe it was probably the first, like, true 3D game I ever played, and I have that very specific memory of it, and it's still really, really fun for me. This game is fun, is still a blast for me, and I still love it. Like, it is one of my favorite Sonic games to this day, but, like, for whatever reason, I think I see the, I see the blemishes with this one a lot more than I do with Mario 64. Like, I don't think if somebody brand new to the series was like interested in trying a Sonic game and I wanted them to like it, I don't see any scenario in which it would be advisable to recommend this game. That being said, it does if I was recommending them a soundtrack to listen to, it'd probably be this one. I think Sonic Adventure has one of the best, if not the best soundtracks in the whole series. Yeah, I see people sort of comparing, like, Mario 64 to Sonic Adventure. For one thing, it's a bit of a tough comparison because, you know, they came out 2 years apart in Japan, 3 years apart in the US. 6, 7, yeah, that's right. So that alone was, like, just such an immense time in gaming at that time, given how fast the tech was advancing. But I saw, like, they said something to the effect of, like, the thing about Mario 64 is that it was focused on doing, like, one thing really, really well. And that was, like, innovating a new 3D, like, a new genre, the 3D platformer, and showing a template of how that could be done well. It didn't have a bunch of extracurriculars or mini-games or like, hardly any story focus at all, or any other playable characters, which... I honestly think sometimes that the fact that Mario 64 only had Mario in it may have, like, sort of led to this trend that you saw throughout the rest of the 90s of games like this. Games like this and Donkey Kong 64 and even Banjo-Kazooie compared to Banjo-Tooie, where, like, there was a lot of focus put on a lot of variety and a lot of playable characters. Because if you weren't around on the internet back then, my god, the amount of people who were clamoring for Luigi, who were making up, like, hoaxes and making up ways to unlock Luigi. There's Tails' butt. Very nice. How to unlock Luigi in Mario 64, that was such a thing.
The train headed for Station Square will be departing soon.
And see, I see people saying things like that all the time. I see Alexander, Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time haven't aged well either. Yeah, I know, but for some reason, I think you know, it's probably what I was just talking about. They're like more focused games. They're more focused on like what they want to be and what they want to do. Whereas Sonic Adventures didn't have any particular focus. It was just, let's show off absolutely everything the Dreamcast hardware is capable of. Now again, saying all this, I'm not dissing Sonic Adventure. I love this game. I posted on Twitter a while back. I think you can find the link in the Sonic Advance 3 episode. Like, my sort of tier list ranking of all Sonic games, and Sonic Adventure is very, very high up there.
Once you have enough power, release the button and you can do the light speed.
If people in the chat want to, like, keep people updated what version of the game this is, that'd be nice. I'll answer it one more time, but I don't want to keep repeating myself. This game, this is the PC version, but with a mod called the Dreamcast Conversion mod. Actually, it's got more mods than that, but that's the most prominent one. And the Dreamcast Conversion mod brings back the textures and the graphical style, and most importantly, probably the lighting engine of the original Dreamcast version of Sonic Adventure. I see Piccolo. Welcome to the chat, Piccolo. Thank you for taking care of Gohan all those years. He says, 64 and Ocarina of Time aged much better than Sonic Adventure 1. I mean, I like this game more than both of those games, but I am inclined to agree.
Go to the casino area at nighttime.
The train headed for the Mystic Ruins will be departing soon.
This game had too much ambition, and its age is disgusting. I don't think it's disgusting. Like, I guess what I'd recommend to somebody who's never played this game before is, like, the context of the time is really important. So I would sort of try to impress that upon them. Like, I think it's very easy for, like, a Dreamcast aficionado to, like, or a Sonic aficionado to overstate, or not overstate because it's not even an overstatement, but to get caught up in what this game meant to us in, like, 98, 99, and how it felt to play it back then, and sort of lose the fact that, like, to somebody playing it for the first time now, it's not gonna come across like that at all. It's not, like, gonna be that important. It's not carrying the hopes and dreams of, like, the entire Sega fandom, like, on its shoulders the way the Dreamcast was. Like, that's why in my videos oh crap. That's why in my videos I always, like, often spend, especially if it's an older title, like, some time to, like, setting up the historical context and setting up, like, the state of the industry when this game was released, because I think that, like reviewing a game like Sonic Adventure in a vacuum, like, you're not really gonna get, like, the story of why it was important or what it was like at the time. And that's very important to, like, understanding, like, the impact this game had and why it was designed the way it was. That being said, I also don't want to come across like I'm saying that the flaws of this game are excusable, or that you should just put up with them, or that you're wrong if you say that this is a flawed or aged game, just because, like, I think people also get a little too caught up in the opposite of that sometimes, saying, like, well, this is how it was at the time, and you're just, you know, what do you know? You're, like, 19 years old, like, you didn't play it at the time, so how could you possibly, like, no. It's like me talking about the NES version of Metroid. Like, yeah, the things that are gonna bug me about a game like that are not the kind of things that would have bugged somebody who, if they were playing it in 1986. Because a lot of flaws like that wouldn't be seen the same way back then. I don't know why I'm trying so hard here. All I really need to do is just go down into the sewers. But I guess I'll play this one legit. Bear Cave, I see. Please no, ignore me. I'm sorry if I missed something in the chat. I am by myself here, and especially I can't really. I don't really have much of an opportunity to look away doing something like this. But all right, I'll pause here and see if I've missed anything. Dustin VG says Metroid 1 is superannuated. Yeah, to me it is, but keep in mind that determining if something's superannuated, like, is a subjective thing, and it's going to be different for different people. Majora Z says they can't stand Mario's movement in 64. See, that's incredible. Like, I see. I'm not saying you're wrong. I see people with that take quite a lot these days. But, like, to this day, Mario 64 probably feels better to me than any other Mario game up till Odyssey. I will say I think Odyssey did it better. The Invisible Sun is here. Welcome. Somebody's asking why I'm not using the light dash mode. I don't know what that is. Okay. Hopefully that kind of catches me up on the chat. Hello, Grounder. Oh, I like your name. Now, I'm definitely not a fan of the way Mario or anybody controls in the DS version of Mario 64 DS. But, like, that game is actually, like... I kind of find the discourse around Mario 64 DS, or I guess Mario 64 and 64 DS, both to be kind of interesting. In that, like, it's such a look into how what you experience in your childhood, like how much you'll sort of overlook the flaws of things like that, because of what I often talk about in terms of childhood nostalgia, and also because, like, Mario 64 came out in 1996, and 64 DS came out in 2004, so there was almost nobody who played both of those games when they were contemporary as a kid. So, like, you really see very, very strong opinions over which version is better. And I guess, to a degree, you might see that to a lesser extent with, like, Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast versus Sonic Adventure DX, because there are people who, like, vehemently prefer the DX graphical style, and I mean, the gameplay is almost the exact same way regardless, and that's the most important thing, but yeah, it's interesting. Bear Cave has to go. Well, thanks for sticking with me for a while. I will indeed kick Eggman's butt, don't you worry. Yeah, Mario Sunshine is another good example of that. Like, man, when that game came out, nobody liked it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it got some good reviews, but, like, the general opinion of not just Mario Sunshine, but a lot of Nintendo's output on the GameCube was that this was a step back from what they'd been doing on the N64. And I think a lot of people who are about my age still feel that way about stuff like Double Dash and Mario Sunshine. They still feel that way about it to this day. But now you've got, you know, people who grew up playing Mario Sunshine, grew up playing Double Dash, and of course to them, like, that's still one of the, like, standout, definitive examples of that series. I can't believe I stepped on a spike at the end there. Oh well. I guess I'll be in Casinopolis a little longer. Somebody saying, or Dustin VG saying GameCube is basically vindicated by history of the console. Yeah, to a degree it is, but I think what's kind of interesting about it is that, like, I actually don't see so many people these days talking about just how, like, the way it was thought of at the time and the way that it was portrayed, particularly on the internet and in, like, gaming journalism at the time. That's one reason that I think, in terms of doing, like, another Geek Critique episode on a console, the GameCube would be a really interesting one. Because, like, the GameCube was my console of choice, like, all through high school. It was the only one I had for, like, most of that time period. And, you know, I was sort of old enough to experience, what, I guess, gaming journalism and what the internet thought of it at the time. And I think that's another sort of, like, contextual thing that gets overlooked a lot nowadays, because, you know, I guess the majority of the people nowadays who are, like, praising the GameCube online were the kids who grew up playing it. This is sort of relevant to Sonic Adventure DX, by the way, because it was on the GameCube. I'm not going wildly off topic here. Man, I hate that I got... I really hate... Man, if I'm not careful, I'm going to, have to go through the sewers again, except now all the rings are going to be missing. Because they do not regenerate if you go back in there. This is usually the table where I can do pretty well, though, so... Let's see what I can do. I fortunately seem to have set off a pretty good discussion in the chat, so maybe... maybe you guys can keep up with that for a while I actually finish this. As long as you get at least 100 rings on a pinball table, you won't have to go into the sewers, so I'm not worried about that now. So I didn't know until, like, God, it seems like maybe a year ago, that if you can shoot yourself on a trajectory through those rings... Oh, like this! I didn't know this was here until probably, like, a year ago. I have no idea, because I played this table way more than the other one. I have no idea how I just never managed to shoot up into this. And now I'm just going to do it twice in a row, apparently. Rare Foil says, what's your opinion on Sunshine's controls? Yeah, you know, I'll answer that in a second. I see somebody else saying, I like Wind Waker. In terms of being vindicated by history, yeah, Wind Waker is by far the, probably the standout example of that. Because, man, people were so very angry about that game at the time. Mario Sunshine's controls, like, they... It feels, like, very good just to move Mario around. I like how solid, like, the controls are and how snappy he is. When people say, oh my gosh, we're doing this again. When people say that, like, Sunshine has the best controls, I can see where they're coming from. I guess they're just... To me, they're also just a little bit too stiff, almost. And... there's, like, not a lot of momentum to them, which makes sense. It's all tied in with, like, the flood abilities and stuff. I'm just gonna leave this table. I'm tired of watching this happen over and over again. And, of course, more than anything in Mario Sunshine, I just miss having the ability to do a long jump. Let's see... A lot of people nowadays arguing... Yeah, I'm losing this on purpose. A lot of people nowadays arguing over whether Sonic 06 is the real Sonic Adventure 3 or not. I kind of feel like some part of that comes down to people... Like, people who say that, oh, that's... Sonic 06 is Sonic Adventure 3. Maybe sometimes be people who don't like Sonic Adventure and want to sort of use that to disparage it. Or say, this is why Sega shouldn't do that again. Whereas perhaps people who are entirely denying that 06 has, like, a lot of the same elements of the adventure games, maybe they're the opposite. I think it's pretty self-evident that, like, 06's reception and its failure and its, the many issues that it had and the reputation that it gained are more than anything else responsible for why we've never seen another Sonic game take that style. I think Sonic Unleashed, for all of its, like, werehog-related faults, was very much meant to be a clean break from that. And it needed to happen. Toonami VHS says, the PS2 was the best console of the 6th gen. The Dreamcast? The Dreamcast was there? I think people are a little too quick to forget that. No, I'm kidding. You can... you can believe whatever console you want is the best. I just did 9, so let's go back to Sonic. this will hopefully be the last. I like how I think I've spent about 4 times longer in this stage than I have in any of the other 2. That wouldn't have happened if I hadn't lost all my rings in the sewer, but there you go. If that hadn't happened, I'd probably be like 2 levels ahead by now. And now it looks like people are just talking about the PS2. It was a very inexpensive DVD player. It always had that going for it. I remember people joking in, like, late 2000 that the best PS2 game was The Matrix. They weren't too far off. At the time. Yeah, it is kind of similar, like... Ooh, uh-oh. Saying, Sonic 06 is Sonic Adventure 3, it is pretty similar to saying that, like... I am not doing well here. To saying that Sonic Advance is the real Sonic 4. You know, it's an interesting thought experiment, but I don't think people need to take it too seriously. Says the guy who based, like, a tremendous chunk of the Sonic Advance episode on answering that question. Yeah, don't take it too seriously. Sonic Jam for Gamecom win. I have figured out how to emulate that game before, but I'm certainly not going to do it again now. See some people asking about the Sonic 06 remake being done in Unity. Yeah, I've checked that out. And I feel really bad for those guys, actually, because every single time it comes up, they just get a ton of people being like, why would you want to remake Sonic 06? Like, it's, like, that's kind of beside the point. It's still just super, super impressive, all the work that's gone into it, and, like, how well it plays, how fast it loads, how, like, good it is. And they also seem to be sort of, like, overlooking the idea that having, like, an open source sort of, like, version of Sonic 06's engine, like, is also going to allow people to fix a lot of those problems. So yeah, it's really, really impressive. Man, I hope I have enough rings now. Nobody is with me today. It's just me by myself. Man, almost 15 minutes on that one stage. Stubbing your toe in the sewers really sucks. Yeah, I have seen Sonic 06 speedruns. They are indeed hilarious. Somebody asked why I consider Sonic Jam the best Sonic compilation. I mean, I don't know if I even would necessarily say it's the best compilation. It depends on what you want. But as somebody who's played has played the heck out of, like, every game in the series anyway, it's the best just because of the bonuses and extras it has in Sonic World. And I guess despite having, like, less games, it still has, like, the best of the Genesis games. And it gives you different ways to play them with, like, having the special stage mode, having the different difficulties.
That means his 2 to R1, and
That's kind of another example of sort of a generational difference that I see, is that, like, people who grew up with GameCubes have a lot of, like, reverence for Sonic Mega Collection, which is hilarious to me now because it was such an incredible letdown to people at the time. Because the Sonic community were some of the only people on the planet who, like, who actually had a Sega Saturn. So when Mega Collection was announced, we were like, it'll be like an upgrade of Sonic Jam, and it wasn't. Getting caught up. I see some more people offering to, like, join in on the stream. I said this a while ago, but the difficult thing about that would be that I'd have to, like, spend quite a long time just trying to get, like, audio set up. I don't actually have a setup to make that easy to do right now. Let's see. Lele Malo is talking about a Zelda Ocarina of Time stream that they were on, apparently. Man, I don't even remember ever doing a Zelda Ocarina of Time stream. Somebody at Nash White says, have I heard about Sonic GT? No, I haven't, actually. Getting caught up on the chat. Matthew Rondello wants to know, have I seen or heard Win the Race? I've heard of Race to Win from Sonic Rivals. Dimitri J says, do you prefer the adventure gameplay or the boost gameplay? Definitely the boost gameplay. And I know that's going to let some people down, but I will, you know, I'm sure I'll be going into that whenever I get around to Unleashed and Colors and Generations and then, unfortunately, Forces. But one thing I will say, and I think I said this during the marathon stream the other day, is that I'm not saying in terms of, like, the way the game feels, or its, like, approach or style, or the lack of a Cow Garden, but just in terms of pure gameplay, to me, the boost style feels like an evolution of, like, of Sonic Adventure 2's speed gameplay. Okay, I need to, like, scroll the chat all the way down. Somebody asked if I'm doing Mario and Sonic in the Olympic Games. No, not tonight. Pika Kirby wants to know what I think of Sega Ages. Also, which game would you like to see on Switch through it? Sega Ages has been absolutely phenomenal, of course. I'm really, really happy, actually. Once I play Mario Maker 2, I'll probably get on this. I'm really happy that Virtua Racing has finally come out in the US. Yeah, nothing but good things to say about the Sega Ages series. Ricardo Cantoral wants to know if I read Sonic fanfics. Not since the 90s have I really read Sonic fanfics. When I was a kid, I'd read, I think it was called The Stories of Robert Brown and Francis Tolbert. I may be mangling those names, but, you know, the internet was all text. I couldn't hear what their names were, so I just had to... I was a pretty big fan of those, and I used to read Dan Drazen's fanfics and comic reviews back then. But, no, since sites like fanfiction.net really came into existence, well, that was oddly about the time that I sort of stopped reading those. Somebody says, Juan Gomez says, hope we get the real version of Virtua Fighter 2 on Sega Ages. Yeah, that'd be cool. Somebody says, do you prefer Werehog or Wisps in terms of the boost game gimmicks? I mean, not really a... It's not even a contest for me. It's definitely Wisps. I'm not somebody who... I don't think the Werehog, like, was the worst thing that ever happened to Sonic or anything. I think that it was perfectly serviceable gameplay. It was just way too long, and the stages, at least in the HD version, were way too long, and the more worryingly, it just wasn't what anybody wanted out of Sonic gameplay at the time. So the Wisps, you know, being able to more naturally, like, interface with Sonic's abilities is definitely a much better fit. Man, every time I play this, I always think of the first time I played it. You know, having been a kid who'd grown up playing the Genesis games. Who'd been down the mountain in Ice Cap Zone so many times, and who would, you know, always sort of wondered what it could look like. Like, when this music track kicked up, and Sonic jumped on that snowboard, and this started happening. Like, it's still, like... I had such a big smile on my face that I can, like, still feel that now when I put myself back there. Also, as far as the Werehog gameplay goes, this is... You hear this a lot. This is by no means an original Geek Critique thought. But it would have been so much better received if that had just been Knuckles. At the same time, though, I get why they didn't want to take it that way. Because Sonic 06 had brought us to the absolute apex of, like... The problem with Sonic gameplay is that, like, they keep making you play as all these characters who aren't Sonic, so... Like I said, Unleashed was, in so many ways, a very much needed reboot of everything about the series, its tone, its gameplay, its focus, and I get why I do understand why they didn't want to put, like, even one other playable character other than Sonic in that game.
The train headed for Station Square will be departing soon.
Somebody asks what my favorite Sonic soundtrack is. In no particular order, I would say Sonic Adventure, Sonic Generations, and Sonic Mania. I don't think I could put one above the other, but... And I realize that Generations and Mania are kind of cheating to a degree because they encompass so many other, like, songs, but... Okay, what do I need to do next? I just did Ice Cap. Alright, Grounder, thank you for coming.
Go to the Mystic Ruins.
Oh, no, I did not need to come here, actually. Whoops.
The train headed for the Mystic Ruins will be departing soon.
Yeah, see, Clay Zula talking about Sonic 4 made it a major part of its marketing that it wouldn't include any other characters. Yeah, I mean, and that was very well received at the time. That was what the people wanted. Somebody asks, would you like to see a new Sonic fighting game sometime? I mean, of course, but I don't feel it's particularly likely. Juan Gomez says, do you have a favorite wrestler? Yeah. Probably right now, if I had to pick a favorite wrestler, I might say Chris Jericho. My favorite all-time is Diamond Dallas Page. I saw somebody say, in terms of soundtrack, Sonic R is the correct answer. Yeah, that too. All right, I'll give 4 answers: Adventure, Generations, Mania, R. There we go. Somebody's asking me to sing "It Doesn't Matter." I did that years ago, and it was a lot funnier back then.
Oh no, the Chaos Emeralds.
Carter McLean asks if I'm playing through all the stories or just Sonic's. Just Sonic's. It's his birthday. The chat's full of oh no. Congressman says, Sonic Team turned to fan criticism too heavily rather than sticking to a vision and realizing it effectively. Yeah, I mean, I think there's, I think that's, like, that's probably been a big part of their problem. Somebody asks, am I all elite since my favorite is Jericho? Absolutely, can't wait for Saturday night. Let's see, best final boss in a Sonic game? Jeez. I would have to say that my favorite to actually fight is probably, like, Silver Sonic and the Death Egg Robot in Sonic 2. In terms of, like, memorability, like if you said Sonic, an end boss in a Sonic game, my mind would probably actually go to Perfect Chaos first. Speaking of bosses, this is definitely my least favorite boss in this whole game. Not just because, I mean, it's easy to dodge, it's, like, there's no way to get it over with faster because it just has these, like, it's just one of those bosses that, like, oh, I'm weak now, I'm letting you hit me now. And worst of all, you have to fight it 3 times as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. So yeah, I get really tired of this guy. Like, Chaos 2, who you fight as Knuckles, was way more fun. And you only get to fight him once. Chaos 6 was... You have to fight Chaos 6 on a lot of stories, too, but at least he has, like, a more interesting gimmick. And, you can get him over with faster. I tend to not like bosses who are a combination of pretty easy and take a long time to beat. That's, like, the worst kind to me. This isn't water, it's goo. Oh, yeah, fair enough. Somebody says, who found Sonic Adventure 1 better than Sonic Adventure 2? You know, that's something that I've gone back and forth on so many times over the years. It's kind of weird. Like, I would say, like, in the years immediately following its release, I probably liked Sonic Adventure 2 more. There was, like, a period of time, like, as recently as, like, probably 2011, when I thought that Sonic Adventure 2 was aging a lot better than Sonic Adventure 1. And, like, I mean, I still think that, I guess. Sonic Adventure 2 is still a much more modern game, just by the virtue of it being a few years newer. But I don't think that really impacts my enjoyment the way it once did, and I think sort of the nostalgia goggles that I have for Sonic Adventure, but not for Sonic Adventure 2, has caused me over the years to become more and more affectionate toward this one.
Until we meet again, my friends.
Echo the Dolphin gone wrong. Yeah, Dustin VG, I agree with you. He says, Sonic Adventure 2 is aged better, but Sonic Adventure 1 is more fun overall. That's how I feel.
Hey, we can't let him get away. Let's get to my workshop and we'll take the tornado.
Yeah.
I also do wish that, like... I do wish that we could have kind of seen, like, a follow-up on this style of Sonic game. With, like, the... You know, sort of like... I don't necessarily mean, like, big open-world environments like this. Or, like, having a hub world. Because I think that, as much as I loved it in 1999, now having, a big open area to run through between levels would just, like... I would just get lost. But more in terms of, like, the focus on the physics. I think that we're probably to a point in gaming now where you could make a good 3D Sonic game based around physics, and indeed I know that lots of fan game projects in recent years have been doing just that. Like, one thing I really loved about playing Sonic Adventure as a kid was not even necessarily just playing the levels, but just running around the hub worlds and doing stuff like this, and especially just spin dashing off of, like, inclines like this. Like, that was still a focus of the game and a focus of shortcuts sometimes. Thank you very much, Max Mariner, who super chats and says, scenario, Sakurai personally asks you to pick a place from any Sonic game for a new Smash stage. Where would it be and what would be its gimmick? Oh man, that's a big question.
Sonic,
Give me a second.
here for a second.
Wait here for a second while I consider that scenario. We've got, like, Green Hill and Windy Hill? Yeah, Windy Hill are both very green stages, so I'd want something that's quite a break from that. I think City Escape would make a lot of people happy. Like I said, Green Hill and Windy Hill are kind of like already doing the exact same template, and moreover, they're both sort of more in the classic aesthetic. So I think doing something like City Escape or Metal Harbor or something like that. Maybe one of the space levels from later in Sonic Adventure. Final Rush, maybe. That'd be really cool. Of course, more than anything, it'd just be nice to have, like, more Sonic remixes. Starlight Carnival is a good answer, too. Any sort of a carnival stage would make me really, really, really happy. as for gimmick, I don't know, what would be a good gimmick for if City Escape was a stage in Smash Brothers? Maybe you could have the truck as like a hazard. So sort of like in Generations City Escape Classic in Generations, where the truck sort of pursues you throughout the stage and keeps like changing the platforms. That might be fun. Like knocking over platforms or like taking you to different parts of the level. Somebody says Collision Chaos. Yeah, a Sonic CD stage would also be really cool. Although not Wacky Workbench. I don't want a big bouncy floor at the bottom of a Smash Brothers stage. Let's see. Oh, Sonic the Science says your favorite theme song from a Sonic game. Yeah, Truck gets its dumb buzzsaws from Generations 2. So when you say theme song, I'm assuming you mean like title theme. Like Sonic Adventures is Open Your Heart, Adventure 2's is Live and Learn. In a vacuum, like, my answer would probably be Live and Learn. The tough thing about that is I've listened to that song so many times over the years that it's kind of like, I've kind of like permanently burnt myself out on it. Oh, I really, really like Seven Rings in Hand from Sonic and the Secret Rings. Never really been able to get tired of that one. I don't know, there's a lot of good music. It's really hard to pick just one. Yes, Bridge Zone, but Bridge Zone isn't a, Bridge Zone isn't a title theme. In This World, yeah, that's a great one. Sonic Colors theme song is excellent. Like I said, like my answer is almost whichever one I happen to be listening to at the time. Alright, Dustin VG, thank you very much for coming. Where compromise does not exist. What I'm Made Of is very good, but I think maybe my feelings about Sonic Heroes itself get mired up in that one. Oh, Dimitri J. Dimitri J says, I saw Johnny of Crush 40 sing all these songs live Saturday night. I am jealous. Man, I would I would absolutely love to have been there. Yeah, Greenlight Ride is good. Although Greenlight Ride is so obviously, like, following the exact template of Live and Learn. Night of the Wind. Yeah, you know, I think I've only played, like, 1 or 2 stages from Sonic and the Black Knight, but Night of the Wind is still just absolutely wonderful. Oh, and how... Yeah, okay, thank you, Edward Smith. How have we not talked about Endless Possibility yet?
You're not who I'm looking for.
Always love that cutscene, by the way.
Oh, I wonder if he's okay.
Yeah, true. Main theme of Sonic Heroes is the Sonic Heroes theme. Okay, where am I at now?
Why don't you try going to the casino?
Why don't I?
Sonic, wait up!
Ask Kovar what exactly? Fist bump is a guilty pleasure. Nah, like, for all the complaining, for all the justified complaining that people can do about, Sonic Forces, I still really liked a lot of the soundtrack. Even, surprisingly, some of the Avatar themes. Like, I don't remember what the stage is called, but, like, that chemical plant level with, like, the lyrics. Very descriptive, I know.
Look! Eggman's robot's on the loose!
No problem. He's just a chunk of cheesy hardware.
Sonic Colors is... I see somebody saying that Sonic Colors is their favorite Sonic game. That's kind of like this interesting, like another example of what we were talking about earlier with being sort of an interesting generational divide. In that but it's sort of the opposite of like something like Sunshine,
Wait!
where when Sonic Colors came out,
Oh man!
like, the mainstream and the fandom both really, really, really liked it. You didn't really see a whole lot of people having much bad to say about it. But weirdly, nowadays, I feel like as younger people have gotten older and have, like, for whatever reason, it seems like within the past couple of years, like, the sort of idea of how good is Sonic Colors has sort of fallen. And that's happened at the same time as, I think, like, the opposite has been true for Sonic Unleashed. You see that game getting a lot more people nowadays who say they grew up playing it and, like, it's still their favorite Sonic game. And I'm going to die now. See somebody in the chat saying this game has aged badly. Yeah, I know. We talked about that earlier. I still love it. There we go. This song, though, this song is one of a lot of tracks that could be considered, like, probably the best one in the game. It just tells you how strong this soundtrack is. It's also one of the many tracks in Sonic Adventure that actually originated in Sonic 3D Blast on the Genesis. Wow, they were merciless. Yeah, seriously. They just shoved me into that corner, and I was like, well, there's no way I'm ever going to get out of this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the first time I've died in this run. I don't know, most of what I see about Colors nowadays it seems to come down to people thinking that that was like the first Sonic game that kind of like I think they think the tone was off. Like the game's plot didn't have a lot of stakes and didn't take itself super seriously, which, by the way, was something that everybody loved about it at the time, but I guess just like the idea that Unleashed, while it still had like its fun moments, it was still ultimately, you know, another plot about like taking over the world, and that, I mean, the world was literally splitting apart. Somebody asks what my favorite Wisp is. Probably Laser. Laser's cool. Or Rocket. Gotta focus in here. Half the time when I do this, I just fall off of this castle and end up having to replay a huge chunk of the stage over and over, but not this time. Nash White says, I don't think the game aged that badly if you're playing the Dreamcast version. I don't know. I see people... So, ever since that Dreamcast comparison blog came out, I see a lot of people saying, like, okay, the reason you don't like Sonic Adventure is because you're playing the DX version. I'm not so sure about that. The game, whether you're playing Sonic Adventure DX or the Dreamcast original, the gameplay itself is pretty much the exact same. It's fine to, like... it's one thing to say that, like, the theme and the graphics and the lighting engine and... like, that was better, and I do think it was, but I don't think that necessarily extends to, like, providing a justification for why people playing it nowadays don't like Sonic Adventure 1. Why does no one ever talk about the Sonic Rush soundtrack, especially the Pyramid level? Oh, I will defend the Sonic Rush soundtrack all day. I think one reason that I loved Sonic Rush but barely played Sonic Rush Adventure was because Rush Adventure didn't have the same style of soundtrack. Let's see. Dr. Mad wants to know, Josh, in your youth, did you create any embarrassing Sonic fan characters? Not that I can remember. I really don't think so, because when like me and my friends, when we were all kids and we would like go outside and play Sonic, like we would just be like take on the roles of the actual characters. Like creating fan characters wasn't really like something that we were too into back then. Juan Gomez says they're looking forward to my VMU video. Thank you. That's coming along very nicely. I'm getting very close to getting a rough draft done on that one now. Let's see. Yeah, no Kovar. It would be complicated to set that up. You're welcome, Metroid Fusion fans. Yeah, exactly. Andrew Tompkins says, if someone doesn't like DX, I don't think the Dreamcast version would change their mind. Okay, Max Mariner says that he was raised on DX and thought every version of Adventure was disgraceful, but played the DC version recently and it controlled so much better. Now, when you say you were raised on DX, was that the GameCube version or like one of the PC or 360 PS3 versions? Because there is like a pretty well-known... I can't remember how exactly it goes. I think that Dreamcast blog explains this one, of like the way the analog stick controls is like perfectly suited for the Dreamcast controller, which has like an unusual like design for an analog stick. So that might be something about it. The DX port was absolutely rushed. Let's see. Kurisu, that's a very, very big question. But this was something that I talked about the other day. He says, if you were to remake this trilogy, Adventure 1, 2, and Heroes, what would you do to improve it? First of all, just Heroes wouldn't be there. For real, though, like, that's not just me saying that because of how I feel about Heroes. That's also just because, like, I don't think people really think of Sonic Heroes as being, like, part of the Sonic Adventure series. I think that it was very blatantly trying to be something else. Which is fine, in theory. The execution was what got to me. Remaking Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 would kind of have to come with the same sort of, like, let's evaluate every single aspect of it and, like, modernize as much of it as we can. It would kind of have to go the same route as, I think, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I think that just remaking Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 in, like, a prettier graphics engine, but having the same gameplay, I think while, of course, that would, you know, that would sort of get the fans, the people who grew up playing it, while we might like it, basically, I don't think the games have aged well enough for the mainstream to like it. Nor do I think these games were, like, beloved on a, like, wide enough level, especially Sonic Adventure 1, for that to work. The same, and I say that because things like the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy and the Spyro Trilogy have been well received, despite not really changing a whole lot. What I'm saying, I guess, is that I don't think Sonic Adventure 1 in particular could really get away with that and like find any sort of an audience outside of people who grew up playing them anyway. Let's see how the chat's doing. I don't know, Legendary Emerald. I don't see that many people talking about, like, a Heroes remake or Heroes 2. I don't imagine that's going to happen. I think that Sonic Adventure 2 especially is probably the, like, way, way more likely to ever happen. Or basically, in terms of remakes, in terms of, like, a follow-up, I think the Adventure series is way more likely than anything regarding Heroes. That being said, despite all I've said about Sonic Heroes, I wouldn't be opposed to giving another shot to a game where you control all three characters at once. It just needs to be made with a very different sort of mindset than what Sonic Heroes was. I would not, of course, want it to play anything like Sonic Heroes actually does. Let's see. Do you think a Sonic Adventure remake that was well made could save Sonic's reputation, and what would Sega do in response? Well, I don't know what Sega would do in response, but
She should still be in this.
at this point, I don't think any, like, one game is going to, like, change people's minds about Sonic. Nor do I really know if it should. I think that even something like Sonic Mania
We have to find
or Sonic Generations or like even that's not going to appeal to everyone. I need to find Amy. Okay. Like, I think that the appeal of a Sonic game is just always going to be somewhat more niche because no matter how I say it, people tell me I'm saying it wrong. By the way, they're both right, actually. But I think the appeal of a Sonic game is just always going to be somewhat more niche. It's not the kind of series that's ever going to appeal to absolutely everybody, and that's okay.
Oh, man. Where can she be?
Baldy T5 says, do you prefer Bottles or his brother Jam Jars? I'd have to go with Bottles, but Jam Jars is great too.
I'll cut him off at the Mystic
Roroe says, GBA Sonic the Hedgehog or Knuckles Chaotix? Knuckles Chaotix for sure, it's not even a contest. Let's see. Oh yeah, they could make J-May's proposed game. That'd work well. Wave Ocean is not as good as Emerald Coast, and it's kind of strange. It was kind of strange even at the time that Wave Ocean was such a like, Emerald Coast throwback. Because, like, it had only been, like, 7 years since Sonic Adventure 1 at that point.
Hey there, bull brain. You better give Amy to me or I'll squash ya.
Lightspeed says it's going to take at least 3 games to rebuild Sonic's rep. Well, maybe, but I think the problem... Yeah. Thessa the Cat says Sonic's reputation could only ever be saved by consistency, if at all. Yeah, like... Sonic Unleashed was not at all a well-received game, but Colors and Generations both were. And, you know... Then Sonic Boom came out, and then Sonic Forces came out, and that's kind of, it looked like it was a renaissance, and then it wasn't.
Shoot, I've lost her again.
Oh, I see people are getting tired. Nobody has ever confused me for a channel called TTX. By the way, if you all are waiting for Mario Maker 2, that is out now. Would have just come out about 3 minutes ago. Why do Dreamcast games always have good voice acting? I know, right? House of the Dead 2? Okay, legit, for the Dreamcast episode, I played a game a few days ago called D2, which I think came out in the year 2000. And it had really, really good voice acting for the time.
The ancient light. Try the light speed.
Droomy points out I'm forgetting Lost World. Of course I am.
Now do the light speed attack.
Everybody forgets Sonic Lost World. Yeah, exactly. We'll do a Typing of the Dead stream for real. I think that'd be a really good time. Bear Cave, welcome back. Red Mountain here. This is probably one of my favorite levels in the game. Although, admittedly, I like this game so much, I could probably say that about any of them. But still, this one's really, really good. See somebody saying Lost World feels like it has the most lost potential of any recent game, and then I saw somebody else say Lost World doesn't feel like a Sonic game. I'm more inclined, I am definitely way more in the latter camp. Lost World was clunky and kind of undercooked, and, like, I see to a degree what it was going for, but I don't think it was, like, executed all that well at all. That being said, even if it was, I still don't think it would really feel a whole lot like a Sonic game. That was another one of those cases where it always felt to me like they basically were looking at like the reviews and the criticism that Generations and Colors got, largely from people who, like I said, this is like the appeal of this series is a little more niche than Mario, and that's okay. But it was from people who, you know, wouldn't be fans of Sonic anyway. Like, I remember Aaron Weber kept like demoing the game and talking about how they've added this parkour button because they always get complaints like it's no fun to like run Sonic into a wall and lose all your momentum. But like, that's kind of the point. Like, building and maintaining speed and momentum and like learning the level design is like the appeal of the series to people who like it. So, and I know Lost World does have its fans, and that's fine. Everything's gonna have its fans. I'm not saying, like, you're having fun wrong or anything, or I'm not trying to, like, gatekeep and say anybody's not a real fan of the series. But that's just how Lost World always struck me. Like, it's an example of listening to criticism from people who wouldn't like the series anyway. And, worst of all, Lost World, for all of its, Lost World didn't pull it off particularly well anyway. Bear Cave wonders how Metal Sonic would have looked. Well, that's easy enough to answer, because if you go on board the Egg Carrier, there actually are, like, 2 different models for Metal Sonic. I think one's supposed to be based more on the Sonic 2 Silver Sonic design. I always forget what the Sonic 2, like the Death Egg Zone in Sonic 2, I always forget what he's actually called, because like strategy guides that I had when I was a kid called him Robo Sonic, but I don't think that's right. I believe the best Sonic game is Lego Dimensions. It was a fun one.
Hey, Sonic.
Tails, I'm glad you're okay.
And now it's time to do the second Sky Chase level. These are always, besides Chaos 4, these are always probably my least favorite part of doing a Sonic Adventure playthrough like this.
Ready to roll, champ?
Alonzo Tompkins wants to know what I think of the guest levels from Lost World. The Knights, Hyrule, or Yoshi's Story levels. They were really, really cool. You know, they were really, like, in-depth and well-designed and well thought out. Really enjoyed all of them. It's just... at the same time, there was just this really... It was really, really strange. Like, I think one thing I remember thinking at the time was, like, this is cool and all, but at the same time, you'd never see a Sonic level in a Zelda game. You know what I mean? Kind of just looking at the chat and moving this around. Sky Chase is a buzzkill. That's a good way to describe it. I need to try a little bit. Given that you're playing the Dreamcast conversion pack for PC, have you seen the Metal Sonic model in this pack? I believe I have. Yeah, when that question was asked earlier, I did think of that, so I think I've seen it. I see somebody say, "What's your opinion on the Sonic Dash games?" Those are the mobile, the Endless Runner mobile games. I think. Is that right? If that's right, then my thoughts on them, they're okay, but they never hooked me the way that Sonic Runners did. And I miss Sonic Runners. Actually, a couple months back, somebody, I can't remember who it was, and I hate that I can't, but they made this really good, like, hour-long retrospective on Sonic Runners, which is fascinating because, like, that's not a game that you can easily play nowadays. But as somebody who was big into Sonic Runners, that was really cool. Absolutely agree on the Lego Sonic sets. I got Lego Dimensions. Yeah, probably primarily for Sonic, but we ended up, like, buying a couple different sets for it. And, like, what always struck me about it was that we always just had more fun building the Lego sets than we did actually playing the game. And that's not because the game was really bad, it's just, you know, it's very simple. It's very much made for kids, and why wouldn't it be? That's fine. But yeah, actual Sonic Lego sets. I remember a couple months ago, people were trying to get, like, Lego has this thing where, like, you can vote. You can design a Lego set and vote on it, and then if it gets enough votes, then they'll actually, like, talk to the platform holders about making it. I think somebody did that for Sonic Mania a while back, and yeah, I'd definitely be interested in that. Somebody said Skydeck is the worst stage. Skydeck is okay, but yeah, maybe so. A lot of ladders, kind of chunky. That's a good point, Ryan Ballista, I think. Says, love how the plane transforms, yet you don't get any additional powers. That's a really good point. That's kind of one of those things that, like, I've played this game so long and I know it so well that I never even think about that, but yeah. Okay. Would you rather play Sonic Adventure 1's Sky Chase or Sonic Unleashed Sky Chase? Probably Sonic Unleashed Sky Chase at this point, but only because I haven't played it since literally like 2008 or 2009, and I don't remember what it was like. So it'd be good for the novelty alone. I see somebody ask if I've seen Snapcube's real-time fan dubs on Adventure 2 and 06. No, but I've seen clips of them, and I keep meaning to watch them. What game would be better with a Chow Garden, Generations or Mania? I personally wouldn't want a Chow Garden in either of those games.
We need to find Amy.
Also, I don't know that the Chow Garden concept would really work well in 2D anyway, so if I have to put it in one, I guess I'd say Generations. The worst thing about Skydeck is just how the camera works. So that was somebody in the chat, not me saying that, but yeah, I can see where that's coming from. Somebody asks, are you gonna do a series on Sonic Riders? It's just slept on spinoff. That'd be interesting. Sonic Riders is yet again one of those games that I feel like in just like the past year or two, I see so many more people praising it than I ever did when it was new. Pat Mac made that Sonic Runners retrospective. Yeah. A lot of other good stuff on that channel, too, from what I remember. I think he'd done, like, a lot on, like, Sonic merchandise and toys. That was all pretty interesting. Kyle Mason wants to know what my favorite sprite of Knuckles is. Definitely Sonic and Knuckles. Like, Sonic Mania's is fine, too, but I'd still have to give it to Sonic and Knuckles. Corey Snow wants to know if I'll do a Sonic and the Secret Rings video. Yeah, I think I have enough of a, like, despite that not being part of the main line, I think I have enough of a unique perspective on that game that I could get something good out of it. Mostly just in terms of, like, playing it when the Wii itself was brand new.
Did you see that?
Sonic the Science says the only good Sonic Riders game was the first one. Changed my mind. The first one was definitely the only one that I really got into and had fun with. Albeit, I don't really remember a whole lot about it because I rented it, like, when it was new, and I played a lot of it, but I never actually got it. And then I got Free Riders on the Wii, and it just wasn't the same for whatever reason. What is the point of the egg carrier transformation other than inconvenience? Oh, to force you to go through Skydeck. So, gee, it must be, huh? I found it. I see somebody asking if I'm going to do anything else once I beat this game, considering that it's after midnight now. I don't know. What do you guys want? Do you, like... I could... Do you want me to keep going with Sonic games? Do you want me to, like, call it a night and then come back and do Adventure 2 another day? I know it is getting pretty late. I could also go play Mario Maker 2, but if I do that, I'm probably going to be pretty quiet. Just because, like, you know, it's a brand new game and I don't want to, like... be trying to... Oh, crap. I don't know why that happened. I don't want to be trying to, like, talk, and be playing, like, a brand new game at the same time. I kind of want to just enjoy it and absorb it. Yeah, regarding what people were saying earlier, I think I agree. In terms of... provided we're only talking about Sonic stages... I think Skydeck probably is the worst stage. It's a lot more tolerable when you're playing as Tails, though. Like, yeah, I latched onto that. Those monkey bars for just a second, and then I fell off. I mean, I guess I could play Adventure 2 after this. That wouldn't take too long. Because with Adventure 2, unlike this game, I'm just going to be playing through the, playing through all of Sonic's stages. If I only want to play as Sonic, then playing through the story mode in Adventure 2 isn't really an option. Let's hit this checkpoint this time, just in case that happens again. Gonna use safe strats here. Long's Adventure wants to know, do you watch any Godzilla? I don't think I've ever seen a Godzilla movie. Have watched a lot of Power Rangers, though. And Super Sentai. And that takes quite a bit of an influence. I know it's only sort of tangentially related, but I will say I always, like... I think it's a lot more entertaining, the older stuff in Super Sentai and Power Rangers, when, like, they were using, like, models and costumed actors more. The CG Zord battles just aren't as, like, interesting to me, I guess. I think now people are asking, like, talking about what the worst stage overall is. I don't know, I like Hot Shelter as Gamma. I don't know. I mean, it's hard for me to say. I'm very, very biased about this game because I like it so much, and I've played it so much. Like, the logical answer would probably be, like, one of Big the Cat's levels, but at the same time, like, if you know where Froggy is, those levels are over incredibly, incredibly fast. Like, I remember when I was getting footage of this game for my video on it years ago, like, my footage of Big the Cat's story was only about 20 minutes long. I think that's one reason I don't... Oh, man, I'm in trouble here. I think that's one reason I don't mind Big the Cat the way that some people do, is just because, like, it's a cool little diversion, and then it's over. Really, really fast. Every Big the Cat level's the worst. Somebody's saying I should play Sonic Adventure 2 another day, but not during the weekend. Oh no, when we stream we're gonna stream maybe tomorrow. Sometime this weekend, but that stream's gonna be about Mario Maker 2. So don't worry. If I save Sonic Adventure 2 for another day, it's not gonna be this weekend. See somebody saying, do I have hope for the new Sonic movie? This is something I talked quite a bit about. Oh, hang on just a second. Let me see if I can hit this right. Ah. Invisible wall. That's okay. Not too bad. The Sonic movie is probably going to be a bit better in terms of, like, being competently written, I guess. than people are anticipating. I don't think it's going to be like a complete cinematic failure or some shit. Ooh, was that the first bad word I've said? How appropriate. But I also don't think it's going to, I don't think it's going to at all capture or understand what anybody actually finds appealing about Sonic. Luigi Me wants to know if I played Super Mario Maker 1 much. Yeah, I played a ton of that game. Unfortunately, and you might have seen me talking about this on Twitter the other day, some of the changes that I've heard about them making to Mario Maker 2 have served to make me a lot less excited about it. I was not a creator in Mario Maker 1. I mean, I made a few goofy little levels, but, like, that was never my focus. What I really liked doing were two things. I liked playing stages based around amiibo costumes. Like, I remember this one called the Nintendo Arcade, where it took you through a bunch of different, like, gameplay styles, like, as different amiibo. So, like, you had a Mega Man part of the stage, you had a Donkey Kong Arcade part of the stage, and I loved that. So, I loved the amiibo costumes, and I loved, because I wasn't a creator, by the way, typo there, Robotonic. Because I wasn't a creator, I loved, like, seeing a stage and seeing interesting mechanics in it, and then downloading that stage and, like, going into the editor and seeing how they made that work. And not only, and in Mario Maker 2, not only are amiibo costumes completely gone, like, it's not even like you can't scan amiibo, there's like, all those sprites are just completely gone, but also, you can't download stages. You can still download stages and, like, add them to, like, the core spot or whatever, but you can't look at them in the editor. There's no way whatsoever to do that. And, like, not only does this hurt, like my interest in terms of, like, I wanted to, like, go in and, like, see how they did it, but I think it also is going to sort of hurt the community, because, like, if you see a cool thing in a stage, and you as a creator want to do that, and want to make that, like, it's gonna be, like, you're just gonna sort of have to figure it out yourself. You don't have, like, a template to work with. That being said, I don't think, I see somebody saying, if you don't know it's there, it doesn't bother you. I don't know if that's even about referring to Mario Maker 2. But I don't think it's gonna be a big deal to most people, just because, for most people, this is gonna be their first Mario Maker game. You know, it's gonna have the same sort of, like, I've kept seeing this over and over again with, like, throughout the Switch's lifespan. Like, when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out, it was, like, a lot of people just treated it like a brand new Mario Kart game had come out. Which was bizarre to me, because I was like, okay, I was, like, we were all playing this game, like, 3 years ago or something. But because the Switch has just sold so much better, and is so much more mainstream, and has been so much more successful, you know, for all intents and purposes, this is gonna be a lot of people's very first experience actually playing Mario Maker.
Go to the captain's room.
So yeah, I think that's why you don't see as much of a buzz about some of these, like, changed features. A lot of people are sharing the final egg password. And Matthew Rondellos points out that Mario Maker 1 did, of course, like, still sell super well. He says 6 million people played the first one.
If I'm to continue, I need to change this ship back to its original shape.
Sonic Matrix wants to know what the best Sonic Adventure music is. Man, the problem with that is, the reason I think Sonic Adventure probably has the best soundtrack in the series is exactly because of its variety, and, like, all of it is so freaking good. So, if what's great about it is variety and, like, there we go. I guess my favorite track in the game, though,
Emergency alert has been canceled.
man, like, okay, probably Speed Highway, if I had to just pick one. And it's a little bit of a cheat, but all 3 songs within Speed Highway, the up and down and all around, going down, and then at dawn, all complement each other super, super well. Rognog wants to know if I'm still interested in doing a Valve retrospective. Absolutely. Played a bunch of TF2 just last night, actually. Fee wants to know if I'm planning on doing something special, because I'm almost at 100,000. Man, I hadn't really considered doing it. Like, the thing about my channel is that, like, you know, I don't even post these streams, like, on the main channel. I keep them in a separate playlist. Like, I see the appeal of my channel as being, like, the scripted retrospectives and, like, that kind of really, like, big content. So, I think that, like, doing anything particularly special for 100,000 would feel too much like just taking away from, like, sort of the main work of the channel. Which, by the way, is exactly why I haven't streamed so much over the years. Haven't streamed as much as I wanted to. Baldy G5 wants to know which class I play in Team Fortress 2. Surprise, surprise, my main has always been the Scout. Dilapidated Way is fantastic. Yeah, that's the sort of sewer music. Am I right about that? Is Dilapidated Way the sewer music from Casinopolis?
Destroy them all immediately.
I'm like 99% sure it is. Yeah, Red Mountain has great music, both of its tracks.
No way! I can't believe this!
Somebody mentions Azure Blue World, which is the Emerald Coast when you're playing as Big the Cat. And yeah, that one's great.
I can't believe this!
Yeah, like, as far as I'm concerned, there is not a bad song in this whole soundtrack. And that's not even mentioning, like, the wonderful keys of all of the vocal themes. Feels good when you can do that. Now, one completely pointless fun thing to do is to try to kill Chaos 6 with the light speed attack. Didn't get him. It's gonna be hard without the blue ring upgrade. You might say I was too slow. There we go.
Hey, I'll play with you some other time.
Oh, I've been corrected. Azure Blue World is the main Emerald Coast theme. Well, thank you very much, Sonic Matrix 64. That is, that is high praise.
Hey there, Knuckles. Glad you
Nerdy George Washington wants to know which Sonic CD OST I actually prefer. I'll answer that in a second. That's going to be a bit of a long answer.
come back here.
Bear Cave wants to know which boss I dislike the most. We talked about that while you were gone earlier. It's definitely Chaos 4 for a whole lot of reasons. Okay, actual answer on Sonic CD soundtrack. My favorite Sonic CD soundtrack is whichever one you pick when you watch my video on Sonic CD. I'm sorry to those of you who've heard that joke before. I made it literally just the other day during the marathon. The actual answer is probably, or not probably, it's definitely the US soundtrack, just because it's the one I grew up with. That being said, the reasons that I gave for liking each soundtrack in each version of the Sonic CD video are totally and completely true. I do think the Sonic CD soundtrack sounds more like Sonic music. I think it, like, works out. Like, it's more like an upgrade of, like, what the series was doing anyway. I definitely see why people prefer it. But at the same time, I like how unique the US soundtrack is and how it stands out in terms of, like, ambience and atmosphere a lot more. And, of course, like I said, I just grew up. That's the one I grew up with. I remember years ago I made a, like, I set up a, like I burned a Sonic CD disc because the Sega CD is completely, like, has no copy protection whatsoever, because why would it in 1992? And so, like, I could pick any version, like any song that I wanted to put on there, because it's all Red Book audio. And in the majority of cases, I went with the US soundtrack. There were a few cases where I went with the Japanese or the original OST, but for the most part, it's the US for me. I see somebody asking how I got Scott the Woz on my Sonic 06 video. That's kind of an interesting story, not in terms of how I got him. I just messaged him on Twitter and asked if he'd be willing to be on, and he said sure. Super cool dude. Gave me a lot of good takes. In terms of how I came to that decision, though, like, I remember actually I was, like, driving home in the middle of the night. I don't know where I was coming from, but I started sort of brainstorming, like, the script, which was in production at the time. And I remembered Scott making a video talking about Sonic 1 and calling it the birth of a laughingstock. And I was like, man, that really, like, is an excellent example of exactly what the problem that I'm trying to say here. Is that to, like, people of like, under a certain age, like, even Sonic 1 has been affected by this. So I was like, you know, maybe I should just talk about that. Maybe I should just use that as an example, because, like, I knew from the beginning that I was going to be, like, showing a lot of, like, different YouTubers over the years and showing a bunch of video examples. But then I got to thinking, and I was like, you know, I don't want that to come across as, like, disparaging. I don't want that to come across like I'm bad-mouthing Scott the Woz or something, because I'm not. And I was, you know, my fan base has, like, never, ever... Like, you guys are the most well-behaved people, well-behaved, respectful, intelligent people on the internet. But, like I said, I didn't want it to come across at all like I was saying anything bad about Scott the Woz. So I was like, okay, I better give him a heads up. I better ask him, like, is this okay if I do this? And then I thought to myself, okay, but, like, probably the clearest way I could say that it is that clear up any confusion for good is if he just, like, came on and participated for a second. So that's how that all came about. I asked him if it was okay if I did it, and then I was like, okay, and, like, would you actually like to have a line here? So that was really cool. Baldy G5 wants to know, can you stream you playing the Sega Genesis Mini when it comes out, please? Absolutely, I will. Welcome to the channel, Monogatari Poppy. Glad you're liking it. Catching up on the chat, because I know that was a big answer.
Where am I?
JPEG Cliff, yeah, for sure. Hate that I died after I did this room once. By the way, I do hope that, I know it's getting pretty late at this point, but I hope me doing this by myself, it's not... I don't usually like to do streams on my own entirely. I like to have somebody on Discord or somebody to keep up with the chat. But that's not all. Like, in this case, I would have like taken the time to find somebody on Discord, but I knew it was getting late anyway, and it was just going to take even longer to set that up. But I hope I've done a good job keeping up with everything, and that I've carried the stream well on my own. Somebody asks if I'd ever if I'd ever plan on getting Some Call Me Johnny on for a video. I don't plan on it. Like, I don't have any plans to do it, but I wouldn't be opposed to it either. I have appeared on the I think they're called the Extra Life streams. Like, sorry, focusing on the wall. It's the wall, brother! I actually raced somebody on Some Call Me Johnny's charity stream. I did a race through Mario 64 a couple of years ago. It was like the middle of the night, so hardly anybody saw it, unfortunately, but... And then after we did that, Johnny asked me if I would race him in Mario Sunshine, and I was like, I never actually beat Mario Sunshine, so I don't think I'd be good for that one. But yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to being on, like, making an appearance on Johnny's videos either, for that matter. It's just, the difference with him and something like Scott the Woz is that usually when I've had somebody else on, it's sort of to provide a different, like, a counterpoint to something I'm saying. Or provide a different perspective. And I don't... most of the time when I watch Johnny's videos, like, he sort of echoes my thoughts on a lot of stuff. But it'd be fun just to do it. It was fun having the DK Vine guys on. There we go. Back up here. Bear Cave wants to know, do you like my constant questions, or are they annoying? No, they're not annoying at all. It gives me stuff to talk about. Now, we said earlier that, oh no, what's it called? Not Sky Chase. We said before that the last level that I played was the worst in the game. I think there's an argument to be made for Lost World 2. Sky Deck, duh, there we go. Nash White wants to know, what do you think of the idea that Smash 4 is a worse competitive game than Brawl? I'm not really in a position to answer that question, I don't think. I'm familiar with the arguments on both sides, but not being a competitive Smash player myself. I don't know. I think it's, from the outside looking in, though, I guess I'd say it's a bit of a wash. I know Meta Knight was considered absolutely broken in Brawl. I know Bayonetta is considered a major problem in 4.
A mural.
Long's Adventure wants to know, other than video game OSTs, what music do you listen to? Not a lot, to be honest. I'm kind of one of those people who listened to, like, actual quote-unquote real music quite a bit in high school, and I kind of haven't done that, a whole lot of that in 13 years. I will just say that, like, for whatever reason, when I was in college, my studying music became One Republic. Like, I would always listen to them when I was, like, studying for a test, or like putting together notes, or like working on stuff, and that's sort of carried over into the Geek Critique. Most of the time when I'm scripting, I'm usually listening to One Republic. Sort of a behavioral thing. Like, the only time I listen to it is when I'm doing like some sort of a like brain work or something like that.
It's terrible. I must stop this now.
Dylan Yoshi wants to know which version of Sonic Adventure this is. I'll answer that in a second. I haven't answered that since really, really early on. Professor Bad Vibes wants to know what I think of the Sonic comics.
What was that all about?
I've only read the first 2 or 3 issues of the current what's it called? IDW run. I was a huge fan of the Archie comics when I was a kid. I'm pretty sure I had, like, every one of, like, the first 75 issues of that.
What's he doing here? Oh, never mind. This time I'll get him good.
Lele Melo wants to know what my least favorite Sonic game is. It's Heroes. That's easy. JMG wants to know, are you a Castlevania fan, and do you plan on playing Bloodstained: Ritual of the Night? I'm like a pending Castlevania fan, I feel. Ever since the Metroid season, I've always intended on eventually doing, like, a Castlevania season. But I haven't actually played a whole lot of Castlevania, and I keep putting it off because, you know, I want it to be fresh for whenever I do the season for it. That being said, Bloodstained is not Castlevania and doesn't count, so I have actually been playing that lately, and really enjoying it. Alright, so the version of Sonic Adventure that I'm playing here is... Oh, by the way, there's those metal Sonic models I was talking about earlier. This is Sonic, the PC version of Sonic Adventure DX, but with, like, all kinds of mods. And most notably among them is the Sonic Adventure... Oh, man, it's the Adventure Restoration mod. I know I said it earlier, but I've been at this a while now. Getting a little burnout. But, basically what that does is it transitions all the graphics and all the textures and all the design back to what and most importantly the lighting engine, which was completely lost in DX, back into what it looked like in the Dreamcast version. Baldy G5 says Heroes is your least favorite, not Labyrinth or Jam on the Gamecom. Labyrinth, I don't know about Labyrinth, but Jam, I can have some fun with Labyrinth. But Jam on the Gamecom is definitely a worse Sonic game. Don't get me wrong. I probably enjoy playing it even less, but you know, Sonic Heroes just came at a really particular time in my life, and you're welcome, Professor Bad Vibes. Dreamcast conversion mod, thank you guys. Ah, Bear Cave, you're leaving again? That's... Well, thank you for coming, and here's your shout-out. Alright. This is not the Dreamcast version, this is the PC version. But I answered that a second ago. Yeah, of course I'm going to do a video on Prime 4 if it ever comes out. It'll come out. I'm really glad it got delayed. If development wasn't going well, I'm glad that the team and Nintendo felt like they were in a position where they could scrap whatever wasn't working on about it, and basically it sounds like start from scratch. That's exactly the kind of thing that hasn't happened to Sonic in a lot of cases when it should have. Like, I think expectations are going to be sky high with Prime 4. It's gonna have trouble meeting them, but I think at the very least, Nintendo's not going to release it until it is at least a very, very good game. Although, I will say, the fact that it's going to be delayed for who knows how long does kind of, make me question my plans, because for a long time, you know, I get the question all the freaking time, like, when are you going to do Samus Returns, or Federation Force, or... You know, I know a lot of people found me because of the Metroid stuff. And for some time, my plan had been, okay, when Prime 4 comes out, I'll take the opportunity to do, another Metroid season. Because the problem with doing more Metroid right now is with my style being okay, I'm gonna do seasons. There's not a whole lot of Metroid left to anchor a season around. There's Samus Returns, and then there's spin-offs. And that's okay, that's not me saying that I'm not gonna do it sooner than Prime 4 now. It's just something that, now I'm sort of considering it more than I was before, I guess. Ryan Balesta wants to know, is a Switch worth buying now, or should I wait for a new model? If we were gonna hear about a new model for at least this year, I feel like it probably would have happened by now. Or happened at E3. I'm not expecting to hear about a new model, at least not this year, but of course I could be wrong. That being said, the Switch has been out for, about 2.5 years now and has never had a price drop, so I might consider waiting for that. Although, with that being said, it's also still selling like hotcakes, I think. Still selling quite well, maybe not as well as it once was, but still selling quite well. That being said, just for the library alone, I freaking love my Switch, and if if it broke or something happened to it, I would have to immediately replace it. It is, since it came out, it has probably, and almost definitely been the, gaming device I've played on the most. see. I see Professor Bad Vibes wants to know what's at the top of your wish list for the next classic Sonic game. Aside from being all original levels, of course. Yeah, he said Professor Bad Vibes said aside from being all original levels. I'm actually one of the like people who doesn't particularly mind if it's not all original levels, although after Mania I would of course expect it to be. A lot of people criticize Mania for not having enough original levels, but that was never that was never like anything that bothered me about it. Just because of how like different the level designs were, how different the gimmicks were, with probably the exception of Hydro City Act 2. Other than that, though, I thought Mania did a tremendous job. At the top of my wish list, I guess I would just say get as close to the exact same team as you did for Sonic Mania, and let him do it. Don't. I guess I would say after the success of Mania, though, maybe don't try to change too much about the gameplay formula. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, I wouldn't want a sequel to Sonic Mania to be like all encore mode. I wouldn't want it to be like have that sort of like not team-based, but, you know, where you have, like, multiple playable characters all at the same time. I like just selecting one character and playing as him throughout the whole game. Matthew Rindillo sees right through me and says, "You want Bridge Zone, we get it." Oh yeah, Sonic Mania 2 with Bridge Zone. I was gonna say day one buy, but it would be no matter what, let's be real. I have no idea if a Mania sequel is a realistic thing to expect, honestly. I mean, as well as Mania did critically and commercially, I would think so, but you know, Sega doesn't always Sega doesn't always follow what would be logical. I see somebody asking who are some of my favorite Sonic YouTubers. You know, aside from Pat Mac, who we were talking about earlier, I don't know if I really follow a lot of people that could be considered just, like, exclusively Sonic YouTubers. For whatever reason. I mean, I'm sure that I've watched a ton of, like... Most of the YouTubers that I do follow and I do watch, I tended to find because they did something about Sonic. So... It's just like, I'd say, okay, who are... Like, maybe recommend some Sonic YouTubers, and maybe that'll jog my memory or something. Yes, get a load of this. Yeah, Amy being in a Mania sequel would make a lot of sense. I think I'd ideally like her to kind of be like a take on her Advance 1 gameplay. Like, being something really, really, really different. It wouldn't have to be exactly like that, but, you know, incorporating the hammer. Being a little more combat-focused. Turning out to be hard mode, weirdly enough. Cybershell. Yeah, Cybershell's a great one. This is interesting. Somebody says, if you could take modern Sonic stages and give them the 2D Mania treatment, which ones would you choose? Sorry you gotta go, Lile Malo. Well, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, but there's your shout-out. Looking at the chat a little before the end here. Alright, modern Sonic stages in a 2D Mania treatment. That would be strange. That would be like... I think that would make the Sonic Adventure fans in particular very upset. If, like... if they, like, got a Sonic Adventure, like, nostalgia baiting in a classic Sonic game. Which would be pretty funny for me, really, but, you know. Most of my answers, though, would probably be games like Sonic probably just Sonic Adventure and Colors, because I think those two probably had the most memorable to me, and sort of like the most original, like, stage gimmicks and whatnot.
It's no use. Give up.
Hope I don't die on the last shot here. That's happened to me a lot. Somebody says, do you play any fighting games like Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat?
He's not gonna get away with this.
I played a ton of Mortal Kombat when I was a kid. Like, I think most people. Like, I remember when Mortal Kombat was like the hottest thing at the elementary school, you know?
Watch out. He's up to something.
Nowadays, you know, of course... Oh, shit. Oh, I did it! Hell yeah. Nowadays, I'm mostly all about Smash Brothers, although I did also get really, really into Dragon Ball FighterZ. Evan Sowards wants to know, where would you rank Mania among the Genesis games? The second best after 3 and Knuckles. Alright, I guess I should say my second favorite. Best makes me sound like I'm being too objective. Garfield the Cat wants to know, what's your best guess as to why the Whitehead ports haven't come to PC or console? No freaking clue at this point, you know? I guess you could say that, like, Sonic CD makes a little more sense because it can't be emulated easily. Or at least Sega never has. But at one time I remember people thought it was, at one point people thought it was because of Sega's, like, exclusivity deal with Nintendo, where for a while Sonic games only came out on, like, Nintendo platforms. But that's not much of an excuse anymore. I have played Pokken Tournament, yeah. I got that on the Wii U. Did not get it on the Switch. But it was pretty fun. My main in Smash Brothers is, of course, Sonic. Follow-up mains on that, like, alt for me would probably be, like, Ryu, Cloud. In Dragon Ball FighterZ, I'm probably best with, like, Super Saiyan Goku, Gohan, and then, like, and Yamcha. Oh, yeah, it's Yamcha. Sorry, it's been a while since I've been into that game, but yeah. I have never played Kiss Psycho Circus, no. I wouldn't say I'm bitter that Oil Ocean was in Mania over Ice Cap, but I obviously would have preferred Ice Cap. Although I noticed that the, you know, there's no stages in Sonic Mania from, like, sort of those contentious, maybe Michael Jackson-related tracks. I agree, Baldy G5, this is a good stopping point. I've been at this for a while now. So I think I am going to call it a night here. We will be back over the weekend playing Mario Maker 2, and I have some pretty fun ideas we can do with that. If you guys are getting Mario Maker 2, then feel free to make some levels, because I'm sure we'll be trying out some stages on stream. Hosting a Smash Open Lobby. Yeah, I really, really need to do that. Last couple of questions here, gonna try to wrap it up. Rognog wants to know my favorite single-player and multiplayer Valve game. Multiplayer, it's gotta be Team Fortress 2. I've played more TF2 in the past, like, 15 years than I probably have of any other game. Single-player, I really enjoyed Half-Life 2 Episode 2. But that being said, I'd say probably nothing compares to the original Portal. Just played Portal the other day, actually. Like, Portal 2 is probably the better game to play through once, but I just enjoy playing through Portal 1. Like, it's so short and snappy that it's a lot of fun to just play through. I like replayability in games, you know? A lot of people praising Yamcha. Yeah, it's fascinating how freaking good Yamcha is in Dragon Ball FighterZ. Hayes Falls wants to know if I'm going to do any Sonic Forces stuff. Yeah, one major goal of the channel has always been to eventually cover every mainline Sonic game. And Forces does unfortunately count as that, so yeah, I'll have a video out on Forces. You know, someday. If I keep going at the rate I'm going, where I have several years between Sonic seasons, then, you know, it's gonna be a while. But alright, it's been a blast, guys. Thank you for sticking with me so late. I know this one got started late and has run pretty late, but really enjoyed it. Hope you guys have too. Until next time, remember that it doesn't matter who is wrong and who is right. You keep geeking, and I'll keep critiquing. Have a good night, everyone.